Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Magic Mike's, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory, prices, and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Howdy.
I can say my name at some point. Ruben Bressler.
It was the pig squeal, wasn't it?
It was.
It got you. I'm hoping the audience heard it so that they know what I'm talking
well,
about. I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Those who joined us for the live show did get to hear Ruben scream at you, which is great.
I didn't scream. I made sure that the pigs were coming back home for supper.
Seriously.
You said supper.
Hey, supper rules. All right.
Yeah.
Supper.
Well,
you don't say dinner, you say supper?
It follows afternoon tea.
It works either way when you're Southern.
There's breakfast, there's second breakfast, there's 11sies, there's luncheon, there's afternoon tea, there's dinner, and then there's supper.
Right.
Uh-oh. Evan, lots of gain, I'm hearing. That's bad. That's not
You
good.
are a little boomy.
Oh,
Okay.
I might have ruined your audio, but with my pig squeal.
Yeah, you ruined it. All right, so I put it down. I hope that sounds a little bit better. I'm sorry. Too much gain, too much gain. I lowered things.
A little boomy there.
Still a little boom boom?
A little boom boom.
All right. How about that?
no
That sound
gain
better?
on mine.
I don't really have a gain thing. Do I have a gain? I have some gain. Man, this is a thing.
You guys are like, when you stand next to your ugly friends, you feel better about yourself. Like, you guys are my ugly friends. So.
Wow. All right. That's cool. All right. Look, we got a show to run. I think it's a lot better now. That's good. Look, we also get started with our Trumpet Blast, which you can get if you support us at the highest level on Patreon. We don't have one, but if you want to support us, that's a way to do so. We also kick it off.
We haven't had one in a little while, so I wanted to quickly run down what that means, which is basically you can be a sponsor for the show for the week. So if you want to send out a birthday wish to a friend of yours, or you want to advertise your store or any of that kind of stuff, send us like 25 words, 10 seconds worth of advertisement, and you could be here at the top of the show in our Trumpet Blast segment.
I also want to give a shout out to our patrons, because Patreon decided to be Patreon the other day and just start declining pledges. You might have seen that people like LRR and Kate Stark and Jessica Nagiri were having difficulties getting their payments, and we were affected as well. And so shout out to our patrons who, were quick to look at their accounts and see if their charges went through, and then fix their payment information if they didn't go through, for us and for other creators. And so we really do appreciate all of your support.
Yeah, it's really terrific. Thank you very much. Even though, yes, we got hit, sometimes you just lose percentages of your income because Patreon, guys, that's a thing.
Yeah, we lost a little bit, but we don't pay our, we don't buy our groceries with it. So it hurt us less than folks like that, it's their entire rent and livelihood.
Right. For them, it's a lot more serious. This
it's upsetting for us, for sure.
Right. I mean, this does supplement things, and I help buy things for, life and whatever from this. But, this isn't like my life would end if this were to be disrupted, whereas theirs could be.
Certainly you should give us all of your money.
Well,
I'm just
certainly.
saying that.
All right. So I have put the $50 gift certificate link in the Twitch chat. Please.
Oh, one more money-related thing at the top of the show, which is it's September.
It is September, which you can resub for $1, I think is the thing. Something like that, and Twitch/Amazon will pay the rest. I could be wrong on that. Please, someone correct me. But we got to get started.
Half off your first month as a new sub.
Okay.
Extended to October 18th.
That's great.
Did you tell them about the survey?
We're getting to the survey's coming later. Okay. All right, so we got to get started because Guilds of Ravnica, y'all. Guilds of Ravnica. Oh my God, we finally have information. Wizards, don't hold information back this long. It's really annoying. Like, I'm trying to make products for the pre-release, and I'm like, you have one piece of artwork. Until yesterday, one piece of artwork was all you had, and like, they're like, here's everything. Well, not until yesterday, but until last weekend. And essentially, now we have all sorts of cool things and all sorts of beautiful pieces of artwork that I would love to have worked with, but Guilds of Ravnica is here. They have unveiled all of the mechanics. There's a mechanics article that shows you a spoiler as well as a video that explains what it does. All of them seem to work really well together, except Aaron doesn't like them because reasons, it's Aaron. It's fine.
Well, they're not Dredge.
It's not Dredge. They did not choose Dredge as the returning mechanic.
If you remember, Aaron was like, I want something better than Scavenge, but maybe not necessarily Dredge level. And I think that it's better than Dredge, or better than Scavenge.
It's better than Scavenge, in my opinion. Let's go over them here. First is Surveil. This is the Dimir mechanic.
I do like Surveil a lot.
Surveil is great.
Surveil is dope.
Surveil is scry, but you put it in your graveyard instead of on top of your deck. So you can choose whether or not to put it in the graveyard or back on top. That's up to you. There can be Surveil for X. Again, you look at like top 3, and you can put 2 in the graveyard and 1 on top, or whatever combination you like. And that in and of itself seems very friendly to you, doesn't it, Aaron? That's a middle thing. Sweet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like that if that was the Golgari mechanic, we'd be having a whole different conversation.
We really would be.
And then we have a mechanic that kind of scares me, and it's called Jumpstart. And it's really dangerous, in my opinion, and here's why. The whole kicker of it is essentially it's flashback but you have to discard a card. So it's flashback for its mana cost, but you have to discard a card in order to do so. So there was another mechanic called Retrace. Now, Retrace was cool because you had to discard lands. You didn't have to discard just anything. You know, you had a 40% usual chance of drawing a card that would activate your Retrace card. Okay, cool. That kind of kept it under control, right? Now, if I'm at 2 life and you play the 3 mana shock that has Jumpstart, I'm 100% dead. Like, I'm 100% dead no matter what you draw. There's no... Well, yeah, of course. But, like, on the other side of the table, I'm dead. And it's weird, and it, like, freaks me out because any card can turn into a Jumpstart card. And, of course, Surveil into a Jumpstart card allows you to play that later if you want to. Undergrowth is the Golgari mechanic. Aaron, you want to tell us about it? Tell us about Undergrowth?
It's trash. Is there?
Why is it trash?
It's trash.
It's literally... No, here's the thing. I've interpreted what trash means to Erin.
Oh my God.
Sometimes she thinks that the word trash literally means garbage, refuse, things you throw away, which is your graveyard. So if Undergrowth is trash, that's just her literal definition of it.
Okay.
She's secretly very excited about it, but she's trying to keep her exterior cool, calm, and collected.
So Undergrowth is this thing where spells and abilities tend to do additional things depending on the number of creatures that you have in your graveyard. So the one card that we saw recently was Necrotic Wound, I believe it is. And so it's for 1 black, and a creature gets -X/-X, where X is the number of creatures in a graveyard. And, like, it's fine.
And if that creature would die, you exile it instead.
There you go, which is nice. Either way, I think it's more exciting than Scavenge, because Scavenge had to cost like 100 mana on every card, and it was like, you know, and then all of a sudden we had articles about how hard it was to cost them and stuff, and it was bad. But Undergrowth, I think, has potential, whereas Mentor seems insane for Boros. I love this. Mentor is when this creature attacks. If you have another attacking creature with lesser power, you can put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome.
There was a card. I mean, the ability is insane, and we got to see Hammer Dropper, for example, which is the 5/2 with Mentor. So you pretty much always get to trigger your Mentor with that card. But then there are sort of Mentor enablers, like we saw. I think it was an unofficial 1/1 flying lifelink, and it's just like 1/1 flying, put this in your Mentor deck, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm excited for that ability. It's significantly better, obviously, than Radiance. Battalion ended up getting there in constructed play, but I'm excited for Mentor.
I'm way more excited about these mechanics than I was for the RTR mechanics. I agree with that. A lot of them really work well together. Sort of, you know, when you have your Grixis mechanics just work so well together, it is a good feeling. And of course for green, or rather for Celestia, they brought back Convoke. So
and Convoke is quite good, and they've put it on some pretty dang good cards. So
yeah, absolutely.
I gotta say that Surveil looks completely busted in half. That's my favorite of the mechanics. Jumpstart's exciting because I'm really hoping they print a Jumpstarter mage. It's like a bad version of Snapcaster.
My only quibble about Jumpstart is it sounds, and maybe there's a proper word for this, but it almost sounds too modern.
Anachronistic.
Right, where it's like, you know, the magic always comes from kind of a different place where they don't really use slang. You know what I mean? It would be like naming a mechanic Boom Shakalaka. It's like, why would that?
Right. Well, if you recall, I mean, Ravnica is the most modern of the planes. We did have cards called, for example, Gridlock the last time we returned to Ravnica. So it's not completely out of the question. And in particular with Izzet, with their technological advances, and to some extent Simic as well. But I definitely see your point. It does feel a little out of place.
Yeah.
Jumpstart, and I agree with Radian from the chat here, is should have been on Kaladesh. You know?
Yeah,
that makes sense. Here's your new vehicle mechanic. Here's your jumpstart mechanic.
Absolutely.
It will probably do something totally different than what Jumpstart does now.
Of course.
But that's a different future. Well, we also had hybrid split cards now. We have status what is it? Status of statue.
That's the one you can pair with Goblin Chainwhirler.
Yes, and it's sick.
Boy.
I would play that.
I don't think that there is a connecting word here like turn and burn, or fire and ice, or
statue
dusk to dawn.
Right. So this one is statue and status. Status here, as I read sideways, is an uncommon instant. Target creature gets +1/+1. Yeah, target creature gets, and also known as target Chainwhirler, gets +1/+1 and gains Death Touch until end of turn, because when it does 1 through everything, it kills everything. We now have a 4-mana Wrath of God in the format. Awesome. Statue is a green, black, and 2 generic mana instant to destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment. That's a pretty damn useful spell at almost every turn, which is amazing.
Quite a powerful thing. I didn't even realize the combo with Chainwhirler until you just mentioned it, but I really like this card quite a bit. I think the connecting word might be or, status or statue.
Okay. Still a little strange, but okay.
Yeah, it's a bit odd, but yeah, I mean, this is the first one we get to see. There's probably going to be at least one cycle of uncommons. There might be a cycle of rares as well.
Right.
But yeah, it's something that they haven't done with split cards in the past. No returning fuse is notable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely like it.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm particularly interested in the lore. I don't know if we're going to cover that, but Amara's back. We get Amara. She's not bad this time. She's the way they intended her. We don't have any, last minute switches with what her card does. And so Amara's coming back. It sounds like the Dimir are going to have a lot more to do with things. Lazav is coming back. And so they made a point to sort of quash this joke. There's a running joke whenever it comes to the Dimir that people are like, what guild? Like, because they're supposed to be like the Guild of Secrets. And so they made a point at the panel to sort of abolish that and say, okay, no, really, everyone knows who the Dimir is. It's fine. They're not this complete Enigma guild anymore. Let's leave that behind. And it sounds like they are the ones who are going to sort of get the information that things might be getting real in Ravnica. And so I'm really excited that this might push the Dimir to the forefront. And this is really, really exciting. And seeing the way, I noticed one thing about the Golgari in particular is they seem to really be leaning on almost the decay aspect, where a lot of the Golgari art that I saw, they're really emphasizing almost like these holes in them, almost like decay holes or like mold holes or something. And so that was something that really jumped out to me. And I guess the Trostani heads aren't talking to each other. That was something that came out in one of the art pieces as well. So I'm really interested to see where the guild leaders are. And damn it, bring back Feather. I want an Aurelia Feather cat fight more than I wanted anything else in my life. And
they brought that up at the question and answer session where someone asked about Feather and they were like, no, she's not in the storyline.
You know what else I'd really like to see? I would really love to see Kaya show up, because with Teysa and the Obsidian on kind of shaky ground, who better to deal with Ghost Dad than freaking Kaya? Like, there's just so many people I would love to see on Ravnica, and I'm just really excited to see where the storyline goes.
Yeah,
among the planeswalkers that are at large in the multiverse, Kaya is certainly one of them.
Amara makes soldiers and not elves, which I think is a little weird. Amara is a green-white 2/2, and whenever she becomes tapped, you create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink, and that's really cool because it actually fits right in with Ixalan, which made a lot of soldiers with lifelink. But it's just strange that she's the elf. Wouldn't she make elves? Isn't that an elf
maker? Chat is indicating that Kaya might be there. That I guess she's on the Ravnica book. Like, oh my god.
Oh,
that'd be dope.
That'd be dope. Well,
unfortunately, Ralzeric is still garbage. So bad.
But he's a viceroy now. He's got a fancy title.
Perfect. He's making sure nobody gets to go talk to Niv Mizzet. That's what he does.
Whoa.
For your 5 mana, he gets to stand at the door and turn you away because you ain't on the list.
Valzeric isn't bouncer.
Yeah.
We have a new goblin. What was the one that make 1/1s? The goblin makes a 1/1 with haste and attacks every turn and gets
the Rabble Master?
Rabble Master. We have Rabble Master 2.0 in Legion War Boss, a 3-mana 2/2 with Mentor that makes a 1/1 red goblin that gains haste until end of turn and attacks if able. You're making 2/2s with your 3-mana 2/2 immediately. That turn, this card is ridiculous. This
card really good.
Fan-freaking-tastic. But yeah, that's just an example of how Mentor is awesome and how you can use your pump spells in interesting ways to make Mentor happen. So kudos to the sick mechanics. And those are sweet. And up next, I want to bring up a picture of the, and I'm going to bring in here, of the guild basics. The guild basics you can get from the guild kits which are amazing. And you have to just kind of see them to believe them in terms of Wizards is finally getting okay with making lands and artwork and frames really unique. Just go in, just dive deep, because look at these things. They're freaking gorgeous. They're
really cool.
The symbol of the guild is built into the background of the mana symbol, and the new artwork looks amazing. And if anything is going to sell these guild kits, you are looking at it.
I also want to give credit to Vorthos Mike and his new podcast, and kudos to Wizards for kind of giving him these lands, because him and his show were the ones that got to spoil them. And shortly before he did, he kind of put a call out to the community to find out which community members identified with which guild, and then he tagged them in the tweets debuting the artwork, and then he kind of asked us to kind of spread the word. And so I was featured in the Golgari one along with Benny Smith, I believe. And so he did a really good job of that, of getting the word out there, really going on different podcasts and different streams to bring the message out there. And I can't think of anybody better to give those lands to than to Mike and his co-host. And that was just, it was really nice seeing Mike hustle like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And there's going to be foil versions of these lands available at the Ravnica Open House, which I think happens a week or two after the set releases. So that's a way to get them in foil, and I can only imagine how incredible they'll look.
Yeah, these are going to be a hot ticket item. I mean, the set symbol for the lands being the guild symbol, in addition to having the watermark of the guild symbol, like the oversized watermark in the text box. They did some really exciting experimental stuff from a design perspective with these, and I really like how, I mean, it's a home run as far as I'm concerned.
I really like the way that they used the guilds to redefine what these places mean. So for example, with the Boros one, the plains, it's literally like almost like when you're, that's what I'm looking for, almost like the audience of like a theater, almost like you just see rows, like empty rows. And so that's not what we think of when we typically think of plains. We think of like long grass grains of wheat or something.
Right.
You know, barren landscape. And even with the Golgari, it was like the swamp was basically like an empty sewer. Like, it's not like, you don't see the things you think of when you think of swamp, or even the forest. The Golgari forest is beautiful. It's the background on my phone, you know, sort of just the fungus. You know, you're not really seeing like healthy trees. You're just seeing like mold and glowing. And so, you know, they took all of these pieces that we think of when we think of Mountain Island and really flipped it based on how these guilds think of it and how they've made it their own, which was beautiful.
So cool. I'm bringing up the, and we'll get to the silliness here in a little bit. Don't worry, guys. Guilds of Ravnica packaging promos and more. All the stuff we've been waiting for. The Impervious Great Worm, because remember, there's one like sort of almost deity creature, and then this giant worm under Ravnica is bigger than it, which is good. Event promos with the Boros Challenger, or it's going to be there for, let's see, for the open house, which is really cool. The draft weekend, you can get Firemind's Research and foil. Necrotic Wound here for the Magic League, which is nice. Store championships. Participate and you'll get a promo card, which is Amara, Soul of the Accord. And if you win it, you get this incredible mat by Titus Lunter. Wow.
Yeah, that mat is great.
That mat is, I mean, it was some artwork that they had commissioned for him to do, and obviously the Planeswalker symbol with the buildings making up the Planeswalker symbol, and it's just freaking gorgeous. And that leads into, we'll talk about Titus Lunter's Kickstarter here in a little bit, but you can get this both with champion and words written all over it, or you can get it as minimalistic as possible, which I think is just the Planeswalker symbol for the Kickstarter stuff.
I do have to bring up one more piece of art here. I hope we're not covering it later, but damn it, Magali. Freaking Magali. Like, I can't with her. So Magali is doing a new Veraska. There was a Veraska featured in the RPTQ playmat, and then she recently released a print or the image on her Twitter account of Veraska on this throne. Oh, like, how are you like this? Like, every time I think Magali can't top herself, every time I think that it's just as good as it's gonna get, she releases something else. And like her Veraska, that dress, bitch, is like Valentino. It's like flowers. Veraska's in her grown and sexy phase. She's sitting in this throne. She's confident. She knows who she is. I cannot look at that picture and just lose everything. Like, damn it.
I'm working on it. Okay, we got it. Here we go. Bam. It is on the screen right now, Vraska. I think this is clearly the Planeswalker image. We don't know what she does yet.
She's just coming into her own. Like, you've really seen this sort of progression with Vraska being sort of this mercenary, you know, kind of almost enjoying her rebellion, wanting to be on the fringes. And then obviously everything that happened in Ixalan, she gained a lot of confidence and she gained a lot of herself. And she really is just she's just a grown ass woman right now. And I love everything about this art, but like, damn it. Like,
she is the queen.
Magali, I can't.
Magali, as usual, killing it, crushing it. But yeah, there's a few more. So, all right. So at the bottom of this packaging promo thing is a little announcement, and you know it's a little disconcerting when the first thing you say is "Here's the deal," and you're like,
right.
"Oh man, this is going to be weird, isn't it?" I'm going to bring it up here on screen so you guys can take a look at it. Down here at the bottom, and sort of there one more thing is the Guilds of Ravnica Mythic Edition. Here you see 7 of what will be 8 of the full art Planeswalker promos of Planeswalkers that are very powerful, see a lot of play. Liliana the Last Hope was just at the GP top 8 for Legacy. Teferi is crushing it. You know, Tezzeret Agent of Bolus shows up in Modern. Duretti is an EDH favorite. And they're putting these 7 cards on the screen. This being, again, Nicol Bolas, Planeswalkers there, Liliana the Last Hope, Duretti Ingenious Iconoclast, Ral Is It Viceroy, which is from Guilds of Ravnica, Tezzeret Agent of Bolus, Teferi Hero of Dominaria, and Elspeth Knight Errant, along with Vraska, whatever Vraska ends up being. They're going to put those together as a part of a special Guilds of Ravnica Mythic Edition that will only be purchasable through the Hasbro Toy Shop. The product will be a draft-sized 24-pack box of Guilds of Ravnica. So this is going to be a unique box size because most boxes, of course, have 36 packs. This one only has 24. With the twist that 8 packs that will be clearly marked will each come with one of these Planeswalker cards inside the pack, plus the normal rare or mythic rare card. You will know which packs have these special Planeswalkers, so this can make for an exciting draft experience or just crack the whole box, whatever. It's going to go on sale for $249.99 on October 3rd, and there will be limited quantities, limit 2 per customer. As we get closer to October 3rd, they'll probably show us some more stuff, which is nice. And we have the rest of the packaging here for the booster box is cool. And then what the hell, Wizards? You can only get these Planeswalkers, these special mythic magical Planeswalkers, if you're in the U.S. or Canada, because that's the only place that Hasbro Toy Shop will ship things to.
And can we talk? Are they planning on fixing that website? Because did you see the kerfuffle when people tried to buy the last batch of Planeswalkers that happened on the website? Do you know how many error messages I saw on my Twitter feed? How many screenshots I got of transactions failing or emails of transactions not going through? Like, it's really great that you want to do that, but does your website work? Like, you can't send people to your website that has a history of not processing things well. Like, come on.
I want to bring up something and from one of Magic's sort of old school,
oh my god,
like original founders helped make the original artwork. The artwork for Tundra, I know, is by Jesper Meerfors, but he posted on Facebook the other day and he said, back in the old days, Wizards of the Coast, we used to joke about how cravenly greedy it would be to release cards that you could only get with a high purchase price, such as only available in a booster box, etc. We often said that if we did that, it was because we were out of ideas and grasping suits had totally taken over.
Now, pay attention, children. If you ever want to know what shade is, like if you hear us throwing around lingo and you don't know what it means, that is a masterclass in shade right there. What Jesper did, take notes.
Then we would laugh because we would never allow that to happen. We called them chase cards, and we knew their single purpose was to squeeze even more money out of obsessed players. Even back then, we understood 100% that it was in effect taking advantage of people with certain mental disorders and that it was a wrong thing to do. We knew that many Magic players would see it for what it was, a sign of a total loss of respect for our players, all for a pathetic short-term game. This is no punches being pulled, y'all.
Yeah.
Those cards
is snatching wigs, just whoop, whoop.
Those cards would have been aimed squarely at benefiting shareholders, not to benefit the players. It would have been disgusting. That's why we never did it, though they talked about it. So this is quite the dressing down of Wizards essentially saying, you know what, if we make 10,000 boxes and we sell them for $250, that's $2.5 million. That's a lot of money. And it's and it's the first time they've kind of blatantly made a promo that you're going to have to pay out the nose for. The one way to look at this is you can say, look, if I bought all 8 of these Planeswalkers for $25, then that would be, that would be my $200, and for $50 I get 24 packs, right? You can try to rationalize it to yourself, ultimately what it is, because I don't think people who are going to buy this, and I do think they are going to buy this, are dumb for doing so. Let's make that clear. I think this is a collectible. You can treat it however collectible you want. I do think that Wizards is seriously pissing off local game stores. Like, again, cool stuff's the world. We're all good in the hood, but like, you have these people who were relying now on this buy a box thing, right? The buy a box thing was insane. It worked perfectly. It got the money into the LGSs exactly like it should. And now Wizards is like, yo, how about we take some of that money? Because I guarantee there's people who are, instead of buying boxes at the LGS and getting the buy a box promo, they'd instead rather have, pay a little bit more and get the Mythic Planeswalker thing. Because that's hot, that's sexy, that's cool, that's hard to find. That's going to be a limited edition whatever. Hasbro's going to make out like a bandit. It's a little tough to defend, honestly. And then the whole controversy of not even being able to get to it from overseas. There's millions of players all over the world. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's the worst part for me, is that overseas players can't do it. Can't have access to these super sweet, things that they're saying that they're similar to Invocations or that they're similar to Masterpieces, but it's not. If it's in a whole separate product that's very clearly marked, it's much more similar to From the Vault or what have you. Mm-hmm. And it's really just kind of sad that players who might want these aren't going to be able to get them because of it being through the Hasbro Toy Shop. Yeah. It's kind of unclear to me how much of this is Hasbro initiated and how much of this is Wizards initiated. So right. I don't know who the bad guy is. But whoever it is, point me at him, because we're gonna have words.
Can we also discuss how this all just seems we're again rolling into this pattern of there just being too many products. Like, until this show tonight, I'll be honest, I'm still, now that I think about it, I'm still not even 100% clear as to what the difference is. So what's the difference between the Guild kit and this Mythic Planeswalker money grab thing? What's the difference there?
Oh, that's totally different. The Guild kit is sort of like as I understand it, it's almost like a pre-con full of guild cards.
And those have the lands that we all
like a commander pre-con. If you think of it like a commander pre-con, except for that it's only it's 60 card deck and only cards from specific guilds, and they built you a pre-constructed guild deck. And
they're like intro packs.
Okay, but the money grab box does not have the cool lands that Mike was spoiling.
Correct. It does not.
Okay.
It has just regular packs, and that's fine because it's weird. And there's like guild packs, and there's kits, and there's boxes, and there's Mythic Editions.
I guess there's buttons too.
You'll get a pin, which is pretty neat. But there's 60 card pre-made using all the cards from the guilds, courtesy of Vaz's son.
Those are the ones they put Deathrite Shaman in.
That's right. Yeah. There you go.
And we should be getting our Voja token. Please, Voja token. I hope.
And Gary over there, you get your free Deathrite Shaman. Aren't you happy? Aren't you so happy?
I'll throw it in the fireplace with the rest of them.
Great.
I've only waited.
That's how you protest, is you burn it after you buy it.
I'm going to cut Golgari symbols out of all my trolls.
You'll show them. All right. So this whole thing is just a little uncomfortable, I think is the best way to put it. First of all, there used to be the From the Vaults and whatnot that were more or less a gift to stores. Like, yes, the MSRP is $35, and unless it was Annihilation, it was not $35. And so the stores were able to get a higher markup, which essentially gives them higher revenue. Which again, it's sort of like this known, you're buying it for distributor prices at $35 MSRP, but we know that you're actually going to sell it for like $50 to $100 or whatever, and that just kind of happened over the years. And now you have a very expensive product that doesn't even go through distributors, so distributors don't get a cut, and it's not going through LGSs, so LGSs don't get a cut, and you can't order it overseas. So all the players and collectors and people who love Magic, who just so happen to be in the UK or Spain or France or wherever, sorry, you're knocked out of this. And it's the same setup as the San Diego Comic-Con promos, but I don't think you can't. But for me, these are two entirely different things, because one is based around an event at a very specific place in the world, where Hasbro themselves is selling that at the event, so it would make sense that their toy shop sells the rest of them, and we're finished here, and that makes at least a little bit more sense. That's a little more palpable. But this is just straight sure, it would be nice to bring in millions of dollars of revenue. if we can sell 10K of these or 20K, $5 million in revenue, like that's a lot of money. And you're talking about an incredible markup. And yes, they have the From the Vault foiling. It looks like they have the From the Vault type foiling as of right now.
Which some people aren't happy about.
Which they're not. And for what it's worth, I'm not that thrilled about either. But again, does that make this a bad purchase for people? Is this not an investable type product? I don't know.
No, I think that this isn't. I think this is absolutely going to be a home run from a sales perspective. They're going to sell every single copy that they print. The problem is the implementation. I think that it's brilliant to have the Invocation Masterpiece card type be Planeswalkers for Ravnica. If the rumblings of what the story is headed towards are any indication, having the popular Planeswalkers being the full art or extended art versions, I think it makes total sense. I think that these are going to be highly sought after by Cube players and Commander players, and even people who just want to pimp out their standard decks with Teferis or their modern or legacy decks with Liliana. I think that these are going to sell like gangbusters. There just won't be any of them left. But it's the implementation is the problem. It's all United States and Canada, and no one in Europe, and no one in Japan, and no one in Brazil, and no one in Australia, who are always left out in these sort of things as a result of being the Hasbro Toy Shop, which we've already gone through is kind of a garbage fire. A little bit of some issues there. I only ever go to the Hasbro Toy Shop to look to see how quickly the SDCC promos sell out. That's the only time I ever go to the Hasbro Toy Shop, because if I went there right now, I'd be, inundated with, princess toys and whatever their latest board game
Transformers or whatever.
Yeah, and I don't have any interest in that. And so this is that. It's just like a weird implementation.
I think both things can be true. It's like they say, it's like you can criticize the things you love. It doesn't have to be an either or proposition. So these are cool. Like the Elsbeth in particular is amazing. And shout out to the artist who did that, who's not coming to mind, but you can literally see like the hole in her armor from where Helia stabbed her. So you can think that these cards are cool and you can want them. And at the same time, comment on how obvious it is of a money grab and how people are going to be left out of it. Like if you're going to do a money grab, take everybody's money. Like why are you making it so that you can only take, a section of the world's money? And so,
speaking of the artwork, note that previously a poster of Magic 25th anniversary, sort of artworks was spoiled out on the internet. Excuse me, and had a lot of the artwork that we see on these Planeswalkers on that poster.
Yeah.
There's more Planeswalkers on that poster that were not in this promotion, and I would not be surprised to see this show up at just the same in Allegiance.
Yeah.
And hopefully
both. Like I said, we can comment. We can comment on how awesome this is, and also comment on how poorly it seems to be being handled.
It's just weirdly frustrating.
It's tough to take this as anything. If you're a local game store owner after the shutting down of the North American Distribution Center, it's tough to take this as anything other than a direct slap in the face.
Yeah, it's tough because WotC Direct has left. There used to be, there was a floor that you're like, look, I can always get product from WotC no matter what happens. Now you have to do these deals with distributors, and you have to get your pre-releases from distributors. And let me tell you, and this is funny and all, but anyone who tells you that stores are canceling orders of Guilds of Ravnica is not telling you what's actually happening. That's not happening at all. No one is canceling orders, and this is not affecting those types of sales. But yeah. And I can just tell you that because I have friends that know things. I'm telling you that's not true.
But don't you also work for a game store?
All right, we would have relationships with people who would actually know. Okay, it's fine.
For me is
well. Wizards
I can say that. Never mind. Sorry.
It's fine. Wizards also responded. They finally said something, not a lot, but something about essentially, we're hearing all the feedback, and we're going to keep trying new things and doing this stuff. And I think the real issue with this is that it's going to spoil Wizards. It's going to spoil not just Wizards, but the shareholders of Hasbro who see what Wizards is doing and the money Wizards is making. And they're going to want that. They're going to want that to continue. They're not going to want to cut that off. Let's not make an extra $5 million this year like we did last year.
We saw that with Modern Masters even. Someone brought that up in the chat where Modern Masters ended up being a financial success. And, suddenly they started running Modern Masters into the ground. And I think we can all agree that Masters have been run into the ground, with how iconic Masters turned out and M25. And so I'm not surprised that they're turning to a new cash cow because the one they had, they already kind of beat to death.
Yeah, they basically like ran it directly into the ground where no one cares about it anymore, and they need to make a way for people to care about it. And now they're just like, well, you know, that's a thing. Sorry, we sold Iconic Masters at Walmart or whatever. And
as opposed to making money just by making your standard good. I mean,
oh, wow, Shade. Remember that Shade thing we were talking about?
Right.
Okay, so we're clear.
I mean, Wizards of the Coast, if they're going to sell 1 million of these, or they're going to sell however many of these they make, and that they don't really care who buys them so long as they sell, I think. So if they're only available in the United States and Canada, and the people who really want them overseas figure out a way to get their hands on them, they don't, as long as their bottom line, as long as they're out the door and sold, I don't know if Wizards of the Coast really cares about what we're talking about right now, which is kind of unfortunate, but also makes a lot of sense from a purely unemotional economic perspective.
From someone who's like, I know how we can make a whole bunch of money. Let's do this. It'll make a whole bunch of money. These other things may have been failures, but by God, we can bank on an expensive product. And this is going to open the floodgates for Wizards to make more expensive products, because I have a feeling this is going to sell great. They're going to high five each other. It's going to look insane on the quarterly report. It's going to make everybody feel good, and they're going to be like, we got to go back to that well. We got to go back and back and back and back. And I'm concerned about that. But speaking of awkward, possible bad things, as we move to
Are we talking about Cube April? I love you, April.
Yes. And I screwed up and set up the scene right because I'm terrible at my job. So yeah, as we move in here to Gather the Townsfolk, GP Richmond happened this past weekend, and it sucked. And I don't mean from a coverage perspective, because from a coverage perspective, it was awesome, and we'll get to that. The event was 800 people for a Legacy GP, 700 people for a Standard GP. Those are bad numbers. Those are straight up bad numbers. There's no way a double GP on a holiday weekend, which gives you the ability usually to travel to these things because you got that extra Monday to get back home, should have had less than 1,000 players in each event. And not only just from, sort of the business perspective of CSI was a vendor, and that's cool. There's less buying and selling when there's less people there, but it's also just, it's less exciting as a way to tout Magic being great when you can't say, there's over 1,000 people in that event. There wasn't even 1,000 people in that event. Like, I feel like we've gotten to the point where players are like, okay, you got us. $70 for a constructed GP with no playmat is where we draw the line. And we went from 0 to this copy and paste template of events being ran. And you got to get people excited about something. And I feel like there's not, just like we talked about, where's the innovation? Where's people trying new things? Where are people doing something different? This event's going to try this, or this event's going to try that. And there's none of that now. And sometimes this cookie cutter thing just gets people to tune out.
Yeah. I mean, I have nothing else to add to that. It was just kind of upsetting when I saw the final numbers. And, Richmond historically has had massive tournaments. GP Richmond in 2014, it didn't reach a cap, I don't think, but it had at least over 3,000 players. 4,000,
over 4,000 at Richmond.
4,000? I was there for that, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so was
that was my first GP, my first big GP, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we were all there for that one. It was insanely
Is that
massive.
the one I accidentally snubbed you at, Evan?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, you were just like, nope, just nope, right out.
All of us were in the same building together, and then we all just like, I think I saw both of you individually, and it doesn't matter. They had so many people that they had to put basically a third GP in a different room. And the fact that we've reached this point in a very short amount of time, it seems, is pretty upsetting.
Yeah.
I mean, and that one, at the time we debuted the Eternal Witness playmat, we said that everyone was guaranteed to get a playmat, even if we had to mail it to you after the event. Everybody was getting a playmat, and man, that blew up, and that was huge. And for a while, that honestly created the status quo of you were getting a playmat at every event, guaranteed, yada yada. And then later, all those things began to be cut away, and then now prices just kept rising, and we've got these expensive add-ons, and it's just really uncomfortable. And I just feel like, I know it's hard work, I get it. Ruben and I, we worked on large events, promoting large events, building large events, and that stuff's not easy. But, I think we got to do something, because then this weekend is the real barometer. If GP Detroit, which is Team Modern Trio. If that fails, if that has a very low attendance count, that's the alarm bells, y'all. We gotta do something, because if they're not showing up to modern team events, what's going on?
I'm not convinced that we've really reached a point with sort of the death knell of GPs or anything.
It's not the death knell. It's a concern. It's a warning sign.
Right. I just think that the 2 GPs that are being referenced here, I think that there were very unique circumstances there, and so I personally would like to see more evidence, if you will. But I do agree with you that if Detroit ends up being abysmal, I would be a little more concerned at that point. And if other events, I just would like to see more of a pattern before I say something like GPs are doomed or something.
Well, and I'm just saying, like, then there's been multiple weekends of just like kind of mad attendance. But this past weekend, I think really put a spotlight on, like, wow, you had a double GP weekend with what should have been a whole bunch of hype and Legacy and Standard on the East Coast.
Let's be real, though. I mean, Legacy does not have that large of an audience. I do think that I think there's a lot of hype around it. I think that people enjoyed watching it at the Pro Tour, but it's still very expensive to get into. It still caters to a very diehard small demographic. I think on the other hand, Standard is still not that great right now. We're also about to rotate Standards. I think people are leery about getting into the format, even if they do like it, because their cards are going to rotate in less than a month or so. And so I think that these 2 formats in particular are not necessarily bad formats or terrible formats, but I just think the combination of the 2, it was a holiday weekend. People might have been doing other things. It's also awful outside. Let's be honest, it's gross. And so I don't know. I think those 2 formats in particular, and I think just the event as a whole, the weekend as a whole, is not necessarily indicative of GPs, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately Standard's not very exciting right now. They literally had the same matchup as the last GP in the finals of this GP. So that in of itself is not going to drive a lot of interest.
Better, I think. I mean, obviously, Red Black Aggro still won the tournament, but
I mean, it's the best deck. We have clearly defined this as the best deck. It's running the best cards that do the most damage, that are the most scary. And you saw people lose kind of out of nowhere many, many times. And
now we'll be able to give our chain wheelers Death Touch. Yeah.
So we gotta keep moving. We're gonna move on here. To gather in the Townsfolk, which we were into. But we're going to move on here to the Black Lotus. Sam, our friend Sam, / Rhystic Studies, made a new video and just absolutely killed it. And it's one of the best pieces of Magic media I've ever seen. And he said he took three months on it, and it absolutely shows. You can tell that everything about that video is lovingly crafted, is wonderfully scripted, is researched like expertly, and it's just a fantastic video to showcase Magic. And particularly, that's a video you can show your mom and they can understand it. Yeah. You don't have to know anything about Magic in order to enjoy that video. And I think that's the secret sauce. That's the sauce that Sam is using to get all these people that are not just necessarily deep into Magic to learn what's so cool about the Black Lotus.
Yeah, I definitely think the accessibility is one of the reasons why Sam has managed to be so successful. And I also appreciate the way that he sort of changed the dynamic regarding a release schedule. You know, I remember when I was doing the deck teas, I was so consumed with, like, I have to put out a show every single week. And he takes months sometimes to do a thing. And I know other podcasters and other bloggers, you feel like you have to do that. It has to be weekly. It has to be bi-weekly. Sometimes he takes a month. Sometimes he takes 2 months. And sometimes he takes 3 months. And he's really a big proponent for getting it right and not feeling that pressure. And I really feel like that's something a lot of other creators, and, you know, even myself at one point when I was working by myself, could have really used, because I was so convinced it had to be a certain way. And he's really just changed the way that people create, and he encourages people to really take their time and not feel bound to a set release schedule.
Yeah, and I want to circle back around because Ruben was correct. He was like, "Yo, we didn't cover the Reid Duke coverage thing," which we totally should have. I'm sorry.
The disrespect.
I know, it's the worst. Well, look, this weekend, Rich Hagon tried something different, something we had never done before, which was essentially go all in on a certain personality, a certain player that may or may not be Bay, and is able to keep and watch that player throughout the entire tournament. And not just that, and this was something that we struggled with a little bit at SCG, Ruben, which was the table noise, right? Remember the table noise was such a pain in the butt, and you tried to mic them, but people would talk over them, whatever. And one of the key things that he also did was he only had one person in the booth while they were watching the match.
Yes.
There were not two people trying to get in their points or whatever. Marshall was just kind of like, it was like hanging out with Marshall standing next to the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the feel. And it was totally different, totally unique. And Wizards just cannot grasp them around the idea of making coverage the person focused. They did way back in the day, even putting people in booster packs for a while or whatever, and then they stopped, and they never got anywhere near it.
Oh, we lost you for a second there.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you're back.
Cool. But yeah, we had an event that's all about a person, and you literally cannot get a better star building experience. And of course, there was literally no better person to choose than Superman himself, Reid Duke.
Yeah, it made it all the way to Kotaku. Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
It's tough to think of anybody who's better to be the focus of something along these lines, especially for the trial balloon, than Reid Duke. They followed Seth Manfield around on Sunday, which was also pretty great. Mm-hmm. You could follow Luis Salvato, who's also in that Player of the Year race. And there's another couple popular pros out there. But in terms of people that, you want to aspire to, in terms of people that you want to see succeed, there's just nobody better than putting Reid Duke on the spotlight.
I don't know anybody who wasn't a fan of this. And I even saw people who were initially critics of the idea come around and say, you know what, Rich, I got to hand it to you. Like, I didn't know how this was going to go down, but this was a big hit. It made it all the way to Kotaku. Kotaku wrote an article about it and said that it was a huge success. And, I think that something like this could definitely work. But the one problem with something like this is it relies on the strength of the person in particular. And this is something I really struggled with when I was doing the deck tease is, it's very hard out there to find people who could do this heavy lifting. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest, there are some Magic pros that, do you really want to watch them for 8 hours and hear their thoughts? No. Right. Let's call it like it is. And so I think it really depends on finding the right person. And as you mentioned, it was great for this. Seth was great for this. And I think if you find the right person, this is a gem. And that's really going to be the catch going forward, is finding the right people.
I mean, let's imagine, okay? Let's close our eyes and think about a pro tour that doesn't kick off with the story video of the set, but instead you see LSV, and he's talking about how he was really excited about the tournament. He's been working really hard. And you see Reid Duke, and he's saying like he's really practiced with this brand new deck. He's really excited to see if it's going to work out, yada yada. And they touch on maybe, let's say 4 to 5 players, right? That they're really going to be invested. And those are the players in the storylines that you tell throughout the weekend. And look, we know that enough players are good enough and smart enough and doggone it and whatever that they could actually carry the entire broadcast. Reid carried that broadcast on his back, and you wanted to be there. And it felt cool to listen to him talk to the players and stuff. Yeah,
he was taking a pretty deep run before the end of it there. And so you both, like, it's exhausting being entertaining. Like, look how many streamers may not have the best win rate, but damn it, they're putting on the best show that they can. He entertained you and was still just cleaning house. Like, that is not easy to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, it takes that kind of special person. But this is an investment in that player. This is the best star building you could ever ask for, and I'm glad it went to Reid, which is awesome. But Wizards can lean into this if they really wanted to. But and no matter how it seems over the years that they've had these opportunities, they just won't do it. They won't say we're covering this person's story. It was always like the King of the Hill or whatever, like Rando at 7-0. I'm sure they're super cool, but I really want to hear about what Kai Bude's doing, okay? I'm sure they're the coolest player and they're doing great in their awesome run, but what is V. Mauschwitz over there doing? I want to cover him and see what he's doing in the event. Stuff like that.
You bring up a good point, is they have a good thing here, they just need to lean into it.
Yeah, they need to
And
we've
said that advantage oftentimes, and I think that the success, with as much as the event, it seems, may have had its shortcomings, the coverage was a booming success on all fronts. Yeah. Everyone seems to, there hasn't been a negative word said about it thus far. So I think that they'll probably allow the experiment to enter a different phase going into the future, and we might see it implemented later.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those things that, it's a risk. And I think there's a lot of, at Wizards in particular, there's a lot of people afraid to take any risks because this is the magical goose and let's not screw it up. And this is the way we've done it always. And, who wants to, go out on that limb, because what if you fail and you make a disaster of the coverage weekend and, it's made fun of and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you got to be able to take those chances and see if it works. And you don't start at a pro tour, you start at a Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And it went great. It went absolutely great. So kudos to the team on that. All right, so let's see here. Jerry T raised $2,700 for charity.
Nice.
Wow.
Which was super awesome, benefiting the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which was great. Mailed that stuff out, raised almost $2,700. Jerry, of course, being awesome as Jerry is. Just wanted to note that, that was a great thing that happened in the community.
Yeah, he got some of the stuff that was clogging up his closet out the door, like a Grand Prix, the shiny playmat, an official R&D exclusive playmat, among other things. So kudos again.
Everybody wanted that playmat too. Like ever since the Wizards folks were tweeting it out, like you can't have this. Everybody wanted it.
It went for like $800. Like there's no joke. That thing's expensive. But let's see. Aaron, would you tell us a little bit about our friend Mike Linneman and his 25th anniversary celebration in Japan?
Yeah. So Mike Linneman was one of the people who was largely responsible for the art show that happened in GP Vegas, not earlier this year, but the year before that one, I believe. And he was brought on to do the same thing in Japan for the 25th anniversary. He's going to be hosting an exhibition in Shinjuku, Japan. You can find out more about it at mtg-ex.com. He's going to be the curator of it. There's going to be a historical aspect. There's going to be an area for artifacts, an art area, and then a multimedia area, which is, I assume, is going to have audiovisual type things. Basically, he's comparing it to something that you would see at like a science or a history museum. It's going to be at a place called Lumine, which is a massive train station beneath a mall, which sounds insane. There are going to be tickets. It's going to cost $5 to get in, and there's going to be Serra Angel promo cards done by Scott Fisher, who's old school artist. Those of you might know who he is. And so it's shaping up to be a really good time. I think if anybody's going to do this, it's going to be Mike. He was given specific instructions with regards to how to convey Magic's history, and he does this for a living. Like this is just what he eats, lives, and breathes. And I think it's going to be a really, really good show. There's been talk of having some personalities show up. And he's got some pretty exclusive art there. And so if you have any means possible to go to this thing, please do so. And I hope that, we're able to see some coverage of it, whether it be, text or video. But if Mike's behind it, it's fine.
This is exactly, and I have the Serra Angel promo on the screen right now. This is exactly the type of promo that is going to be worth $50 to $100 at some point, because it was only given out this one time at this art show in Japan. So I want you to think about that. Like, yeah, the tickets are $5, but you're probably getting $45 back. Like, this is exactly the type of promo that makes those prices happen. The collectors go nuts.
I mean, it's Japan isn't going to get access to the Planeswalker boxes, but at least they get this promo.
Hey, man. That's cool.
Too soon.
Wow. All right.
It's already been half an hour since we talked about that topic.
Well, let's move on here to Tolarian Community College versus the price of fetch lands. His scalding take: if fetch lands can never be reprinted in standard and printing them frequently in supplemental products is a no-go, then they need to be banned in Modern and Legacy already. In those formats, they are essentially required to play, reprint them, or ban them with a $76.80 price tag on top of a scalding tarn for the image. And this is where we discuss our collectible card game and how we wish it wasn't so collectible, and how Wizards should get in line and make these reprints happen. And the market has just been exploding. Modern has just been blowing up. Of course, all the reserve list stuff has been blowing up. All of Magic itself has just kind of been growing in terms of dollars. And this is sort of a thing that you have to accept if you want to play in some of those older formats, is that it's going to cost you. You're going to be trading a lot, or you're going to be paying a lot. And that's just kind of the price of admission right now.
Yeah, I was surprised to see how many people, kind of came for the professor over this. There were some pretty notable personalities that were like, wait a minute, girl, you may not want to, don't do this. Like, this is really uncomfortable to watch. And so it's very difficult because I tend to play older formats. I love Legacy and I love Vintage, and I wish more people could play it with me. I obviously talk about the decks that I love, and I always feel a little bad when people come up to me at events and say, hey, this sounds like a lot of fun. I'd really love to join you. Oh, I don't have $4,000 laying around. And so, ultimately I would love for people to join me and play these degenerate formats. And I wish that were the case. I'm just not sure. It's tricky. It's like, I definitely want that. I'm just not sure this sort of Les Mis, eat the rich kind of approach is the way to do it. I'm not sure.
It's tough. And there's not a lot of good answers ultimately, other than and someone mentioned it in the Facebook comments of just play within your means. You know, it's like not everybody gets to ride on the most expensive rides, and Legacies is one hell of an expensive ride these days.
Yeah.
If you want to ride on it, so
it's tricky.
Yeah, there's no good answers, but I'm fairly confident the wrong answer is banning them.
I don't know. There've been some. I mean, there are definitely some arguments, particularly in Legacy, with the way that Brainstorm is so ubiquitous. Like, I've definitely heard that argument of like, if Brainstorm is the pillar of your format and you will never get rid of it, then maybe you should ban fetches. Like, I'm here for that argument, but I'm not here for it in terms of like a Robin Hood. I'm not sure that's the answer in this sort of
right. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, obviously that we'll figure that out, and we hope Wizards reprints them soon because, please, dear God.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have enough of an issue with the reserve list where they lean on, you know, we literally can't reprint duels and some of these older cards.
Right.
But I would say that in terms of fetch lands, Magic is theoretically going to keep being around and keep killing it. You know, the Grand Prix population notwithstanding. It seems like it's you know, popular than ever, and people are loving going back to Ravnica, and Dominaria was a killer success, and people love the game, and more people are coming to it, and there's more and more Twitch shows and popular culture references, and as time goes on, it's just going to keep growing like that. It's a train that just can't stop, which means that in a decade, if they don't reprint them in a regular set, they're going to reach dual land prices. So, you know, you got a decade to figure it out.
I don't think it's going to get that bad, and I know that Wizards, while they can't necessarily talk about the secondary market literally in any fashion ever at all, they are aware. Now, we got to move on, as we only have a few more minutes to talk about stuff, including Titus Lunter's Guilds of Ravnica Art Bonanza, also known as a Kickstarter for his playmats, prints, and mini prints for the art that he made for Guilds of Ravnica. If you see that super sick Ravnica Planeswalker symbol as Ravnica buildings, this is where you can get it, which is awesome. And Titus is a fantastic artist, a super cool person, a great creator in the game, and this is your way to support him and his work and get some amazingly cool playmats in the process.
He's almost doubled his goal. His goal was $8,117 US dollars, because I think he did it in euros.
Right.
And then he's already at $14,108 US dollars, so 26 days to go. So this Kickstarter is happening. There is more time. And I was a little leery at first. I was like, well, I don't know. And then I saw the Planeswalker building. I'm like, I'm in.
The Planeswalker building is dope.
I'm still waiting for my Seth McKinnon rewards, and here I am already pledging to another one. So Titus is amazing. Obviously, Titus was one of the artists affected by the TSA debacle last weekend, so I'm even more inclined to support him.
Right.
But he's also been really great in terms of reaching out to community figures. I know he randomly likes to send community people packages with lands and other signed goodies, and so yeah, I feel really good about supporting him.
Yeah, Titus is definitely one of the good guys, and supporting him is supporting Magic artists, which is always fantastic.
That Ravnica symbol playmat is so cool.
It's just it's dope, as the kids would say.
Yep.
It is so dope. A small short thread came up this week, which I thought was sort of funny and interesting enough that I wanted to bring up. Someone on Twitter had mentioned that their biggest takeaway from this weekend is that as Magic players, we need to stop talking at each other and start listening. It's honestly just exhausting. No one cares about your bad beats. No one cares about your good beats. If I care, I'll ask. I have my own tournament to play. It feels like conversations between Magic players are competitions to see who can interrupt and one-up each other the most. I'm just as guilty as anyone. And so am I, and so is literally every one of my Magic friends. Literally, he's like, you know, we shouldn't Magic culture while we Magic culture. And I'm like, well, you're steeped in it. You're steeped in it. Like, you're like a fish. You're like, what's water? It's like, no, man, we're in this. And we tell the good beats and we tell the bad beats. And it's just, sometimes it feels like a weird competition of how screwed over you got versus somebody else. But it's kind of part of the competitive culture, I feel.
I would argue that it's just more a sign of the culture at large. You know, I actually experienced this quite a bit when I started this most recent job, and I initially chalked it up to a bit of a generational difference because I just turned 35 a couple weeks ago, and a lot of the people in my class were sort of in their late 20s, and I noticed that I felt like a lot of the people in my class were sort of talking at me, where they wanted to sort of just talk about their day to someone. It didn't necessarily have to be me, and they certainly didn't necessarily want to hear about my day back, and so I thought it was just something I was experiencing on that level. But now that he mentions it, I really feel like like it's just sort of a sign of the times. I don't think it's something unique to Magic. I think that we notice it more because we're surrounded by more Magic players, and they're, you know, that's where most of our friends come from and things like that. But I think it's something just as a culture where we're at right now. And shout out to Cyrus. Cyrus Gill is the young man who made that tweet. Storm Guru, love him.
Yeah, I think he's a Bay Area guy.
He's amazing. He's one of the best Legacy Storm players out there. His stream is very successful. And so go follow him just because he's an absolute sweetheart.
Very good. Very nice. So moving on to shameless self-promotion. There was a survey that was sent out by Wizards. And for what I feel like, and from all the reports I see, is the first time Wizards has ever asked, what podcasts do you listen to? I bet you know what's going to come next, which is... If you do just so happen, and I'll put the links in the show notes, the links over here in the Twitch chat. If you just so happen, may possibly be filling out a survey that just so happen to talk about podcasts that you enjoy listening to,
right? We
would really appreciate the shout out. That's all we're saying. That's great.
Yeah. I filled this out today. I forgot to mention Magic Mike's in mine, but there's
wow.
Of course, I shield for ourselves. But there are so many good Magic podcasts out there that they only let us list 5, which was a real shame.
That's true.
But yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely always some
everybody in the chat who said that they've already filled it out and we were on their list. Thank you all.
Absolutely,
I see you.
Yeah.
See you.
Thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it. It's very similar to if you want to help support the show, you can go review us over at iTunes. That's very important to their algorithms and stuff.
Yeah.
If you,
people, you know, those of you who mentioned, you know, we get asked all the time, you know, how can people support the show without necessarily, you know, financially doing so if you're not able to? This is a phenomenal way to do so. So if you're not able to afford the Patreon or you're not able to afford the Twitch subscription, this is huge. Like, go ahead and fill out that survey. Go ahead and leave us a review. Hit us a like, an upvote, share. All of that really does mean the world. So thank you.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So we have quickly ran into the midnight hour, which is fun. So we can take a little bit more time on the artifact economy. The splash damage, if you will, of the new game Artifact, which is coming from Valve. And it's incredibly interesting.
Speaking of Valve.
Uh-oh. Whoa.
So we were doing the top 10, and I made a comment about Chippy. That Chippy was the artist who did Skitharix. And I was like, where did Chippy go? Chippy's working for Valve. Yes, he is.
Nice.
I believe it.
Thanks. Shout out to the YouTube commenter who mentioned that. So shout out to Chippy, who's working at Valve.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, it's really weird to have Valve come out and be like, hey, here's our game. It's essentially like playing 3 games, like in 3 different tables, but you have the same hand for all 3 different tables. But also, they're going to charge you for booster packs of the game, and there's no way to earn booster packs or cards without buying them. And that's literally kind of how everyone was losing their crap over Magic the Gathering Arena, was because of that very problem. Was I have to pay for literally everything. It's basically going back to what I would describe as the Magic Online model. Like, Magic Online is expensive. Like, that is not a cheap program to interact with if you want to have the full experience of cube drafts and, you know, legacy queues and whatever. Not to mention them being worth real money. You have to pay for event tickets and whatnot, which add up over time. I know I've went back and looked, and I'm like, wow, I spent like $50 last month on drafts. You know, you don't really think about it, but $10-12 at a time adds up.
Yeah, it does.
It also feels really bad too. Maybe I'm not used to how things go, but it feels like they're being unusually stingy with the beta keys too. Like, this is the game that Garfield designed, right?
Oh, yes.
It's awkward to see Magic pros like literally begging that are like, hey girl, I'm Pascal Maynard. I'm Emma Handy. I'm so-and-so. We have thousands of followers. We are pros. We would love to play this game. Can we get something? Nothing. PAX, there were so many requests of, you know, Dix, one of our moderators, was at PAX, and he was like, hey, y'all, do you guys want t-shirts? Everybody was like, Dix, get us an artifact key, get us an artifact key. The lines were out the door. People weren't able to do it. Like, you shouldn't have to. This is an opportunity to maybe get a specific audience into your game that should naturally kind of tie together. And just the fact that these keys are just so impossible to get just feels like a bit of a misfire.
I mean, it's very similar to what Wizards did with Arena.
Yeah.
I was in Arena from like the alpha or whatever, and I saw many of the same people, asking for keys and stuff and asking for access. And and nowadays, literally just Google it and you'll find yourself a key. They don't give a crap. But there for a while, it was a very coveted thing that was only given out to a certain few as they began to finish up the work. And sort of from my side, it's always great to kind of see where they started. The old alpha build of Arena is laughable compared to where they are these days. So the amount of polish and the amount of work they put into it has truly been impressive. For what
it's worth, Artifact looks like a really cool game. It's based on MOBAs. It's based on games like League of Legends and Duels of the Ancients, where you have these multiple lanes. And so in some ways, it's like playing 3 games of Magic at the same time, except for that each of the individual games can affect each other, right? So you can move characters or cards from one lane to another, or maybe if you do something in lane 1 that says destroy all creatures in lanes 2 and 3 or something like that.
Right.
It just seems really interesting.
Yeah, the concept I think is cool. Richard Garfield has been killing it this year. We had Keyforge, which is still selling like hotcakes, and we have this, which is coming from Valve. So congratulations, Mr. Garfield, which is awesome. And everyone's chasing that Hearthstone money. We have
Richard Garfield, who's probably chugging an entire container of Tums, seeing what Wizards is doing with this new promo guild foil land.
Well, you say that, but you look at the artifact economy, and it's not,
The artifact economy looks straight bad in terms of I'm going to have to pay a lot of money to get started.
To water his own lawn before he whirls about other people's yards.
Wow.
I'll allow it. That's good.
Wow, fair enough. Well, either way, Artifact is coming. I'm really excited for it, just to see how different it is, just to see what's new and unique.
It looks really unique and interesting and looks like a ton of fun. And I do think that it is going to be like we've talked about card games online in, off and on of various types. This one looks like it's actually going to be a big one that has that Hearthstone style of impact.
Fair enough. So I'm going to draw us a winner right now of our $50 gift certificate.
Let me open up my Gleam here so I can reach out to them.
Congratulations to Victor 3R, which is from Battleground, Washington in the U.S., which is cool. I'm copying your details now to give to Aaron.
Congratulations.
Congratulations for a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. Thank you, Cool Stuff, for providing that. And I hope Mr. Victor 3R has a great time buying whatever games you would like from Cool Stuff Inc., which is awesome. So, nice. And I want to thank those who may have enjoyed the September. Again, if you can sub for a lot cheaper, you can resub for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, sub to us for half price all the way through the middle of October.
Absolutely. So let's see here. 1 hour ago, we have thank you Promethean Chaos 66 for the subscription. A little
Discord
aloof
member.
Yeah, a little aloof for 100 bits. JDubs 2008 for 108 bits, or 101 rather. Mr. Labufu throwing in some 10 bits, which is appreciated. Beyond Sadistic subscribing, thanks a lot. Andre the Gigant has subscribed, thank you very much. Cripson Anima subscribed, thanks a lot. Vaz Sun threw us a bit, and we have lots of follows, as well as MTG Effects subscribing via Prime. Thank you very much, which we appreciate.
There's some more bits right there at the end from Moorcroft as well.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move here to turning the corner to the finisher.
Someone else, NYC Morrissey, thank you.
Ding, ding, ding.
Now they're doing this just to troll us.
Now they're doing it to troll us. Do not get the finisher yet.
All right, I'll start saying them. I haven't subscribed.
Yeah.
Okay. This past weekend at PAX, the boys over at Penny Arcade announced that they will be launching a brand new program entitled The Magic Hour, in which illustrator Mike Krahulik, is that right? And Jerry Holkins will play Magic the Gathering in novel locations, potentially with interesting people. Magic and PAX have long been tied together, what with the fall set often being launched at PAX Prime, and this new show will connect the two even more. So, in the future, how else can Magic the Gathering and Penny Arcade further their partnership, Ruben?
Well, the webcomic has long been focused on video games and video game culture. So it's the perfect opportunity for Magic to engender themselves to the video game playing and video game Twitch viewing audience by being a lot more racist.
Wow. Aaron?
That's how you get popular on Twitch, right?
Like that Onion article, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Magic has been around since 1993, and Penny Arcade debuted in 1998. So we're getting close to both of them aging out of the ability to stay cool and hip and with the next generation. So I think the best way to do that is to have an episode of the Penny Arcade Magic Show where instead BTS and Lil Xan play Fortnite and do the Boom Floss Challenge.
I don't know what any of that meant.
I have no idea either.
Those are words. Those are theoretically words. The Boom Floss Challenge is the thing where the guys dance like this.
Okay.
You know this thing? Have you seen videos of kids doing this one? I'm with it, young people. How
you are
doing,
so with it. Yeet, y'all, yeet. All right,
Yeet.
cool. Well, look, Penny Arcade and Magic are two pillars of nerd culture. Few collectible card games and webcomics last a year, let alone 2 decades, and neither are showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon. And really, there's only one other gaming and an internet mainstay with that kind of longevity. So for me, the best way I can think to strengthen the connection between Penny Arcade and Magic is to bring on the man who invented the most popular YouTube Magic show, the professor at Tulare Community College.
Right. That's who I was thinking you were talking about.
Right. That's exactly who we're talking about.
It wasn't the Magic Channel.
Right. We'll just end this one with a dab.
If you saw their teaser video for the Magic Hour, if you go watch it, they were like, so Jerry says, I come up with this idea. You know what the show is going to be called? And Mike is just like, is it Magic Show?
I thought of you.
Right?
Yeah.
So he just like, and I'm just like, you're about a decade too late on that one.
Copywritten.
Oh my goodness. Well, that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thank you for joining us here live to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to everybody for the bits and the subs and the support. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we got an additional sub, I believe, of Chevanel Cut-A-Flip. That's interesting. So that's fun.
That's going to be my new drag name.
Thank you much. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. I got distracted by Chevanel Cut-A-Flip just there.
It's pretty incredible as we
if
move.
you're not careful, I'm going to cut a flip. Sorry.
Moving to our final slide. All right. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, our Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMicsPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMicsPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.